Intense emotions around a person's traumatic demise, where they may not even be aware they've passed, can result in malevolent entities that can do real harm. While thankfully a lot rarer than a simple apparition, the frightening phenomenon needs to be dealt with face on. Here are 3 incidents of those terrifying encounters. Haunting havoc. The anger of this poltergeist was all the more scary when its ability to travel became known. The idyllic town of Budgewoi in coastal New South Wales, Australia, was the home of a violent entity that caused national concern during the 1980s. Its target was the family of Ron and Margaret Beryl and their 14-year-old son Craig, who had moved into a holiday cottage while awaiting the construction of their new home. Within hours of moving in, they were subjected to a devastating onslaught of poltergeist activity, with ornaments flying around them and constant hard bangings on the walls. The disturbance was so clamorous that it woke up their neighbours. After enduring weeks of the terrifying rampage, the traumatised family had no option but to move out of the property. Although never having thought much about the paranormal, the only conclusion they could make was that there was a ghost haunting the place. In the meantime, they also found out the possible source of the presence. A neighbour informed them that an elderly man had experienced a heart attack in the house. For 2 days before he was found, he had lain there rapping on the wall in the hope that it would attract the attention of someone nearby for help. Sadly, he passed away in the ambulance on his way to the hospital. The rattled Beryl family moved out of the haunted house and into a caravan park, but shockingly, as sometimes happens, the disruptive entity moved with them. The phenomenon had now hit the media, with Colin Mooney, then an announcer with radio station 2GO, the first to investigate the case. He reported that other residents in the caravan park were witnessing gravel being flung about aggressively by something invisible. He said that inside the Beryl's caravan they were again enduring pillows and ashtrays being hurled around. Paranormal investigator John Pinkney found Margaret weeping with frustration when he interviewed her, as she declared that they just could not shake off the entity. The distraught family were forced to make another move to safety, this time fleeing to Margaret's mother, Joy Hyland. Her home quickly became the spirit's new abode when, she claimed, the moment the family walked through her door, her house descended into chaos. She reported that crockery was flying around and smashing, and that the entity was turning on taps and slamming doors. She actually became scared that it could cause one of them injury or death. This time a television network, Channel 9's current affairs program, Willacy, decided to cover the rambunctious presence. A reporter and camera crew were sent to film at Ground Zero, inside the Budgewoi cottage from where the phantom had originated. Over 1 million viewers were able to hear the tormented heart attack victims, urgent tappings and violent banging of the walls. Pinkney later wrote that at the request of the Burrell family's friends, he contacted a medium who they hoped would be able to exorcise the presence and direct it to a more peaceful plane. According to Pinkney, its Channel 9 manifestation was its last thunderous message, when the next day the medium gently abated the din and terror it was causing. Shop of Horrors. In 1985, John Klisker and Doug Pearce took ownership of a small shop in the Melbourne mountain suburb of Belgrave. The co-proprietors were shocked to suddenly discover that the premises were haunted by shadowy spirits they described as extremely unfriendly. The disturbing incident started soon after they had taken over the old building, with the activity frighteningly physical in nature. Klisker reported that one Sunday morning, when he was in the back room unpacking new stock, the door slammed loudly behind him, and when he tried to open it, found it impossible, concluding that it had been locked on the other side. This was unthinkable, as he was the only person present in the property at the time. He called a neighbour for help, who was astonished to find 3 vertical bolts pushed firmly into place, effectively imprisoning him in the room. He found out that the same thing had happened to Darrell Gladwin, who was renting a room above the shop. Gladwin had been working alone when he heard bolts on his door thudding into place and trapping him inside the room. He had had to shout across the street to get help. Local people were aware that the old building had been inhabited by sinister entities, which were often described as shadowy for as long as anyone could remember. The creepy silhouettes of the ghosts were in the shape of 2 stooped elderly men and a small girl, and they were far from harmless. They had become known for their unpleasant tricks, which ranged from hurling objects about to full-on physical attacks. During the 1950s, an invisible presence had even tried to throw a woman employee down the stairs. The 2 new owners were rattled by the unnerving events happening around them and tried to find out the history behind these very discontented beings. They uncovered that in 1940 a store manager had taken his own life in the upstairs back room. In 1978, a subsequent manager had succumbed in a hunting accident. A former owner's wife told Gladwin and the 2 store owners that she had seen one of the ghosts. He said that, disturbingly, she had flatly refused to describe his ghoulish appearance, saying that it was too horrible to put into words. He understood her reticence, saying that whatever dwells in the building creates a heavy brooding feeling in the air. He said that at one stage he slept upstairs for 6 weeks, and the atmosphere was so malevolent that he didn't dare venture outside his room door all night. Stinging slaps. During the 1990s, a whole family living in the small historic town of Perth in Tasmania reported that they were under attack from an aggressive presence who was eerily shrouded in white fog. One family member, Michelle Wilkins, wrote to John Pinkney describing the terrifying occurrence. Michelle's mother had reluctantly disclosed her encounter, which had started with her awaking during the night feeling bitterly cold. She was about to get up to find an extra blanket when she observed a man who was enveloped in a white fog standing in the corner of her bedroom. She tried to scream but found her vocal cords frozen, then terrifyingly realised that only half the man was visible. He then began slowly fading away, after which the temperature in the room returned to normal. The deep chill she had experienced, a common phenomenon in some hauntings, has been attributed to the entity drawing energy in the form of warmth from the surrounding air. Michelle's 15-year-old brother then revealed that he too had seen the ghost, in the form of a white, gleaming figure sitting on the end of his bed. Half believing the entity to be a burglar, he tried to leap out of bed to fend him off, but also found himself completely paralysed. He was forced to lie there staring at the spectre and was horrified to see that, when it changed its angle slightly, it had no facial features. A few days after this, Michelle herself experienced a series of terrifying visits from the entity. She would initially be awoken by something invisible jumping on her bed, then feel a bevy of stinging slaps on her cheek. One night she opened her eyes to see a ball of bright light floating in her room, and as she lay there trying to work out what it was, all her blankets were ripped off and dumped on the floor. The terrified family then knew nothing of hauntings or exorcisms which would rid them of the violent ghost. Luckily, it seemed to lose interest in them, and the encounters became less and less. Sometime later, a neighbour told them that an elderly man had passed away in the house, and his grieving wife had kept his body there for a week before informing anyone. The room in which he had lain had later become Michelle's bedroom.